Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's Questions and Answers. I'm Ajahn Sona. Let's have the first question.
Ajahn, our first question is from No One Everyone. Dear Ajahn, what is the relationship between the objects of the mind during a dream and the mind subject itself? We know that dreams are ultimately a mental process born out of the mind itself, but somehow it seems to be a dualistic subject-object experience. Is this the case? Is a glass of water taken from the ocean an entirely separate entity from its source?
Well, this is not just the case in dreams. This is the case in imagination. And one of the things that is listed in the Buddhist compendium of aspects of a human is the sixth sense. And the sixth sense is the mind itself. So the mind observes itself. And of course, in waking consciousness, you can imagine and realize that you are imagining, being aware that you're imagining. And in dreams, usually the person is not conscious that they're dreaming, but in that case, they are also producing these images and so forth. Now, the mind seems to be able to split itself into two things. One, its observer and that which is observed. So it thinks and knows its thinking and is aware of its thinking processes. Sometimes the thoughts and imaginary aspects of the mind can be directed. Sometimes they can't. So this is very peculiar that you can't control your own mind. Like, who is it that is thinking and who is it that's controlling? If it's all you, it's very peculiar that you can make yourself do what you want to do. These are the paradoxes of the workings of the mind. So the process, I would say that Abhidhamma has to analyze this as well, and it seems that they would analyze it as the mind is playing both roles. That it's seeing something and doing it at the same time, and it just happens to do it very, very fast. So we see this in a computer, on a computer screen. We see that these actually are little dots, a matrix of little dots that are rapidly programmed to appear. And it looks like moving objects, it looks like individuals, it looks like what a movie appearance and so forth. But what's happening is very fast behind the scenes, and some central processor is spilling out all of these little dots all over the screen. So this is kind of what we call pointillism. There's an art technique like this as well, pointillism, where the entire painting is done by tiny little dots of paint. So it's somewhat illusory, and the mind seems to be playing all of these parts. However, the mind, it's what is apparent when you try to meditate and fail, is that the mind is very conditioned, very has a great deal of baggage to it, a lot of habit structures that are functioning automatically, and that we don't know why it does certain things. By the way, that's rather frightening, to live with a mind that's out of control. You will see people hauled before the courts, and when asked why they did this horrendous thing, they have no answer. They don't even remember doing it, etc. So this is what the Buddha is saying. It's very dangerous to have a mind that's out of control. And one of the most beautiful things possible in life is to control your own mind. And to do that means you have to train it, because it's not naturally under control. There's a lot of artificial training involved. And we can redirect it retrain it, etc., and it can become very our best friend then. Even our dreams can be dissolved. At the stage of arahant, it's possible that there is no further dreams as well. And you can control the contents of the dreams through conscious practices while you're awake as well. At least the tone of the dreams. That you can produce that you have good dreams by working with the mind in your conscious waking life. So yes, it's a mystery, more or less kind of, well, even computers are mysteries to most of us, and maybe even to people who are experts on it, how this really happens at the nanoscale is beyond our real understanding. Nevertheless, we kind of know how the thing works, or how to make it work for us. So we don't need to be too concerned with the atomic level of how the mind functions. We just need to have guidelines for making it work in the way we wish it to work. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Next question is from Monica. What is the point of reaching non-returner? If nothing is really I, me, or mine, what is the purpose of incarnation? To what are the incarnations striving for?
Yes, there's a certain idea about reincarnation that you're learning lessons, that you have to be put in a certain situation in order to learn lessons, and that somehow there's a kind of a grand meaning or structure behind it. But actually, that's not the case. There is no ultimate purpose to this. This is why the Buddha is aspiring, or telling people to aspire to Nibbāna, which is the cessation of the rebirth cycle. You're not going somewhere. You're going in circles. Sometimes the circles are very beautiful circles. And sometimes they're very terrible circles, but you are going in circles. And each of these levels ultimately has an end to it. So there are small circles, the circle of the year, you go through the seasons, and you're back to the beginning. And there are larger circles. There's circles of entire universes, apparently beginning and ending. So a kind of an infinite series of big bangs. It's not going anywhere. And so that's what we want to straighten out. If you're coming from a theistic background, there is a kind of a historical sense that you are going from pre-Christian to the appearance of Christ, and that's the beginning. That's the linear idea of history, that it's going to a place that is, one goes to heaven and all things are solved there and it's eternal. This is not the case for Buddhism. We certainly have ideas of heaven, but even those are cyclical. And they don't go anywhere. Very pleasant could be billions of years, but they have an energy source, something that got you there, and that eventually that fuel runs out and you continue on in another level. So even in heaven, it ends in tears. So yeah, that's not going anywhere. But the solution to the eternal recurrence is to get out of the cycle, and that would be called Nibbāna, enlightenment. You say the non-returner. What's the point of being the I with no self and all this kind of stuff? The point is that person is on the way out of the cycle of reincarnation. Again, the cycle doesn't have a point to it. It's a circle. It has no point to it.
Next question is from Cordy in Germany. Please explain the sankhara khanda mental formation. I don't understand it.
Sankhara khanda is the volitional formation. So in general, for the general audience, there's 5 lumps. A human is divided into 5 lumps. Khanda is kind of a lump. It's the name they use for your shoulder. You know, your shoulder is a very complex thing. It's got all kinds of joints and stuff in it. It's a lump, basically, on your side of your body. So a khanda is a portion of a human. And one of the portions is the body itself. And this is fairly obvious. In most cultures, they have names for these portions. So there's a body, and then there's feelings. So there's pleasant feelings and painful feelings and neutral feelings. And then there's consciousness, and the consciousness is consciousness of sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and then mental states. And then there's perception, and perception is more or less familiarity with objects or situations. So you see a cup and you know that's a cup. Perception is a form of memory. It's quite shaped by your experiences in life, but it is very important that, you know, one person perceives a piece of music as lovely, and another person is not interested in it. Now, one person's sense of beauty is not shared with another person. So this is very perception. And then there is this sankhara, and it really means kara is a form of karma or doing. Karma, by the way, just means action. And sa is together, so kind of a complex activity. And it is what we call volition, making a decision. So it's very important. This is our the moral dimension of a human. A machine has activities and so forth, but it doesn't have moral decisions. Person and volition would be, say, anger would be a volitional state. Love would be a volitional state. Kindness is a volitional state. The volition of generosity, the volition of stinginess, etc. So these are what is meant by this sankhara. It's it's the critically important one, and it's the one that makes the karma. Yeah. These are mental processes that we all are aware of. It's in Western philosophy as well. What is your volitional state? Is in a court of law, they want to know what your intentions were. Sometimes you had no ill will or ill intention, and something negative happened, a car accident. Were you intending for it or not? So it's intentional activity of the mind. So that, in brief, is sankhara. Yeah.
Next question is from Ayam in Salt Lake City, Utah, United States. Dear Longpor, when I was very young, I witnessed events of a sexual nature that were quite traumatic. Time has helped me cope with what I saw, but there are still moments where the traumatic memory comes up in daily life. Are there any Buddhist methods for helping alleviate this feeling of recurring traumatic memories?
Yeah, that's what meditation really is sitting down and facing the activities of the mind. And most people don't do that. Most people's minds are just wildly random. Also, Western psychological attitudes are quite often just analyzing the past and going into it. Sometimes they work. They can denature the intensity of these kinds of memories. Buddhism sits you down and says, watch the mind and start to get a sense of objectivity towards the production of thoughts. See that your mind is rather out of your control at first. But remember, in the midst of it all, that these are merely thoughts. And it's not that, by the way, it's not that you're just to observe these thoughts, but that you are to observe them and attempt to control the contents of them. And learn some techniques which allow you to remove certain types of thoughts that you do not wish to have. So this is one of the things the Buddha talks about. Before he was the Buddha, he had to decide that there were certain types of thoughts that were regrettable and not helpful, and that there were certain types of thoughts that were not regrettable, that were wholesome. And he divided them into two types, and he firmly decided to select only from the wholesome ones. And he succeeded with this. So that we also have to follow that. We can't just have random and traumatic after effects just popping into our mind. So we sit down with it, and this could take hours. This is not something that happens in a half an hour. This is something that you have to work on however long it takes. And that's really your major work till the day you die, is learning to control your own mind. So when you start to feel you're drifting towards negative thoughts, you have to replace them. So that's one of the methods, is to, if you can't just dismiss these kind of thoughts, then you have to replace them, and you have to fill your mind with the opposite, positive thoughts. Also, you can, through kind of a wisdom, the large picture of things, you can see things which most people kind of recoil from and think, oh, that's a terrible thing. Notice that some people, like if you're a paramedic or a doctor, an ER doctor, you're going to see all kinds of shattered bodies being brought in, terrible wounds and broken bones, and it cannot traumatize. Like, the ordinary person is shocked and horrified. They want to run away. The doctor is not shocked or horrified. The doctor is said, look, this is the way it is with the human body. It's very vulnerable. And this what can happen to it. Now, are we going to just let it happen and run away, or are we going to do something about it? So remember what it really is. It's just blood. It's just seawater. It's red seawater. Those bones are just bones that happen to be fractured. So don't get all melodramatic on me. So this is also what the bigger view of life is, that we have to see that what happens to humans, there are all kinds of cruelty and manipulation from one human to another. And we have to say, look, this is reality. This is what happens. Now, you can pretend it doesn't and be shocked out of your mind, or you can say, no shocks here. I was never under the impression that everything was sweet and pleasant. It's not sweet and pleasant. Terrible things happen. Now, I better be able to know that truth with detached awareness, or I am going to suffer. And so that's practicing right view. That's practicing the view of wisdom and equanimity in the face of these things, because it has occurred through all history to bazillions of people and animals. We could just list off, this wars and torture and torment with humans and animals. So either we're able to live with that reality and acknowledge that reality and say, yes, it happens. And this is why the Buddha also is aspiring to Nibbāna. It's who wants to live in that universe? It's full of cruelty, insanity, deprivations. People starve to death, just horror. And so we don't need to be horrified, but we need to be detached and say that there is only one sane way to do it. Say, yes, it is this way. I shall not be swayed by this. I shall see it as it is and realize it's not a good place to be reborn into. We need to move towards freedom from this condition, which comes along with having a body, having feelings, having sensitivities. These are, when beings have this, they're subject to just terrible situations. But we have to see that just with clear eyes, very philosophical eyes, to say, yes, such things happened. I saw such things, or even such things happened to me. And that is reality, and I do not have to react. I choose my attitudes towards this, my emotions towards these things. I choose to be wise and equanimous, and at the same time aspire to freedom from this situation. Yeah.
Next question is from Gianni in Texas, United States. Is Buddhism a mutually exclusive religion, or can one practice Buddhism along with another faith?
Well, parts of the Buddhism doesn't insist on anything. It doesn't, basically you're the one that decides whether you're a Buddhist or not. Nobody's knocking on your door saying, "Have you heard the good news?" We're not that kind of missionary, but we're missionary in a sense of like, I'm happy to make the information available to you if you're inquiring, just like a librarian. You go to the library and ask for certain books. The librarian is actually very happy to help you. So, a Buddhist monk is the librarian of this religion and recommends this text and that saying. Sometimes they do it by memory, and sometimes they recommend that you read such and such, but not if you don't ask them. So the librarian doesn't go out in the street and try to force books on people. So there are parts to Buddhism, control of the mind, so forth, that are quite eagerly taken up by people in other religions. They may not take the whole package. And Buddhism says, help yourself to whatever you want. Like, it's an open smorgasbord. We're happy to share any information we have. You can take it, you can leave it. We're not into forcing you. We're not into convincing you. If it helps within the context, if you're not ready to leave your religious structure and move to the Buddhist view of things, fine with us. If you only like the salads, go for the salad bar. Or just the desserts. There's some nice desserts, very sweet, lots of loving kindness and compassion, very sweet, and very nourishing as well. So help yourself to that. If your religion doesn't include that on the menu, please feel free to visit our deli. So that's how Buddhism is regarded. But basically, also the Buddha says the Dhamma, his teachings, is like the elephant's footprint. The elephant's footprint is the largest in the forest. All other animals' footprints fit inside the elephant's footprint. So he sees it as a vast, very expansive vision. And other religions, they're like Venn diagrams. They overlap in some ways with some parts of it. But he says none of them are as full or as extensive as the Dhamma that he is expressing. Yeah.
Next question is from Haley. I can't overcome loneliness very well. What do you suggest? Well, most people try to overcome loneliness by finding somebody else or a group of people, but that doesn't undo loneliness. Loneliness is a state of mind. It's a type of lack, so a sense of unfulfillment, and its basis is in craving. What's the opposite of loneliness? It's like contentment. And both of these are actually products of the mind. They're not actually products of good company. It's not that when you find good company that this tendency goes away. You are producing your sense of completion, and you're also your sense of lack.
from your own mind. And so you realize you have the capacity to overcome your sense of loneliness without needing to find certain types of human companionship, and it's quite dangerous, really, to rely on other of the situation to make you feel content. You really want to work on that, and one of the best places to work on it is when you're alone. So when you're alone, try not to just blindly believe that it's quite natural to feel lonely. It's not. It's something that you have. It's a habit you've picked up. I mean, it's understandable. We're all raised around people and families and so forth, and then if they're not around, then we have this sense of something's not there. But we can't just go with that. It's a bad philosophy of life to need to be in the company of other beings. So we have to work on that and say, what am I doing? I mean, I'm not a child. I can get out of bed myself. I make my own breakfast. It's perfectly fine, it's not. We don't have to deny ourselves access to human knowledge. I mean, we can read books, whatever, watch videos, or get knowledge from all kinds of places. And so we're free to access the greatest minds in the world through things called books or videos, podcasts, etc. You can access the greatest minds in the world. But we don't need to be 3 feet away from somebody. Like what's that about? It's just it's delusions. Yeah, delusions of that the mind creates. So we have to talk to ourselves like that and say, I'm just creating this. Why am I doing this? Why don't I stop doing this? I'm fine. There's 8 billion people on the earth. How can I feel lonely? It's quite crowded, actually. 8 billion people and gazillions of animals as well. This is an overpopulated planet and you're lonely. So, thank goodness I've got my living room to myself. Yeah.
Next question is from Steve. Dear Bhante, does Theravada believe in a BARDO state between lives as the Tibetan Buddhists do?
Yeah, that is an Abhidhamma question, actually. There's a controversy. There's a section of the Abhidhamma, which is it's kind of almost like a university textbook on abstract notions about Buddhism. And various schools argue various points. And one of them is there what's called an intermediate state between existences? And Theravada says, no, you can't have an existence between existences. And then you come across the Tibetan ideas of bardos, where there's these intermediate states. Birth, death, and intermediate state. But I think I can easily reconcile these two. What the Theravada is saying is that between two moments of existence, you can't have non-existence. In other words, you have to have a continuous stream of existence. You can't have something in between two existences. That is called an existence. So it's not an intermediate existence, it's existence. So there's a continuous stream of existence. Now, what is equivalent in the Theravada to this BARDO is the ghost realm, the Peta realm. And this is kind of like this BARDO thing. It's a kind of a state which is not in the human realm. It's not the animal realm. It's a kind of a ghostly realm. You even have it in the West. Ghosts are stories about ghosts, and you have it in Christianity. You have it in every element in native religions and so forth. Ghosts, unsettled spirits that are in a kind of another dimension of being. So yeah, if we're talking about that, yeah, they're the same. But if on this is called, there's a certain term for this in the Theravada Abhidhamma. It's called antara bhava, the between existences. But it really means again that there's no existence. That existence is a continuous stream. That's all they're saying. And quite often there's a kind of as if there's some big difference between these two schools on this, but really, if you look at it closely, they're not really talking about the same thing. And basically, the ghost realm is similar in both schools, and the antarabhava is kind of a atomic analysis of the stream of existence. This is like quantum physics, some argument over whether consciousness is necessary for the resolution of a quantum state or not. Yeah. Okay, next.
Next question is from Cool Whip. Dear Venerable, do you advise that I finish my university degrees before ordaining and work experience? I wish to ordain now, but I may regret it. Security before an irreversible decision. Is this wise or entangled?
I can't tell you exactly what to do there if you're not that certain yourself of your commitment to the robes. If you're going to go into the robes, it would be better to stay in it. But if you're going to go in and then drop out 3 years later and you have not finished your degree, then you have to go back and finish your degree or change your plans, etc. The thing is, of course, that life is uncertain. Like, what if you finish your degree and die on that day, and you miss the opportunity to enter the robes and maybe attain enlightenment, something. So, I mean, that higher value is the attainment of enlightenment. But if you're not at all certain or convinced that this is the path for you and that you're going to enter and remain in it, it may be a problem. Although I've known lots of monks, lots of people who have entered the robes and stayed in for a period of time and dropped out, and I'm sure they didn't regret the experience in the robes, even though they had to find their way in the world again. The things you learn in the robes, the self-discipline and so forth, is very critically important to your experience in your life in any role. So I would say, if it wouldn't hurt to take the chance, go into the robes, see how it goes, and you probably won't. I mean, even before you finish your studies. Because the thing is, life is very uncertain. You don't know. It's not like you're sure that you're going to live that long. So the Buddha is very pro-urgency. He says, go for it. If you're so inclined, go for it.
Next question is from Doja Khan in Istanbul, Turkey. Dear Bhante, if energy isn't created or destroyed, then what arises and ceases? How does energy tie into Nibbāna?
Okay, so if energy is neither created nor destroyed, what rises and ceases? Energy rises and ceases and is not destroyed. Energy just transforms. That's what transforming is. Rising and change. It's a change of form, so it's not. It's an illusion that it ceases. The forms change. The energy is not destroyed. And what is the last part of it? Was something in how does it relate to Nibbāna? Well, yeah. So let's say that when we talk about energy, we mean consciousness. So consciousness is flowing through samsara, And the problem is it's trapped in samsara. It cannot, consciousness neither changes, but is not destroyed. It's not created nor destroyed. So it's a kind of an element that just floats around in samsara, taking this form and that form. So Nibbāna is the cessation of that. So that's, the Buddha describes it as when a flame goes out. So what happens to the flame of a candle when it runs out of wax? Where does it go? The energy ceases, it no longer takes a particular form. It's untraceable and unimaginable. It doesn't go in any particular direction. And so it kind of beggars the imagination about what happens at pari-nibbāna, the death of the fully enlightened person. It, as the Buddha says, it's like the issue of consciousness ceases. Yeah. So that's all we can say about the matter. It's beyond articulation to describe what happens, because all of the words that we have in our language and all of the concepts we have are all rooted in samsara, in sights and sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and ideas. And if something is outside of those things, we don't have any words for that. So that's, the Buddha says that we are wordless regarding such matters. However, you can experience enlightenment a lot when you're alive, and it gives you the apprehension of this idea of final Nibbāna. It gives you a intuitive apprehension of that. Yeah.
Next question is from Mind Gardening. Ajahn, can we think of the Brahmaviharas as fuel for the Seven Factors of Enlightenment?
Yeah, so for the general audience, the Brahmaviharas, Brahma is kind of the heavenly realms. The vihara is a house, really. So the house of the gods, where the gods live. And if you want to move in where the gods live, you need to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And that's where the gods live. So it's not, you can't hire a designer for this, can't hire a builder for that. It's it's your consciousness is transformed by these exalted emotions of grand loving kindness, grand compassion, sympathetic joy for all beings, and equanimity. This is how you move into these heavens, and they can form a basis for the arising of the seven factors of enlightenment. So, yes, loving kindness can be a basis for the practice which leads to the enlightenment factors. The enlightenment factors are mindfulness, investigation of Dhamma, energy, joy, serenity, concentration, and equanimity. And that is the constitution of the enlightened mind. It's a very nice experience. The enlightened mind, the negative emotions are gone. The greed, hatred, and delusion are gone. And only joy and serenity remain, and emotionally. And so those are very similar to the emotional contents of the Brahmaviharas, the dwellings of the gods, the loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. So yes, they have a high affinity and overlaps. Yeah.
Next question is from Chloe. How can I remember my past life?
Well, there are techniques for that, but usually, the techniques for remembering the past life are given in the commentaries usually, and the most significant commentary is the Visuddhimagga. There are earlier commentaries that talk about it as well, the Vimuttimagga, but it's usually by, first of all, setting it aside. Don't try to just remember, but you have to cultivate samadhi, concentration, the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path, jhana, which is it's hard to get. It seems to be out of the range of most people. There's kind of attitude. This is kind of being restored to awareness in the West now, the idea of jhanas rather than just so-called vipassana or light meditation light. They're trying to go deeper into these samadhi states, and they tend to misrepresent it as a very easy thing for people to do, but it's really, from the older texts, they say darn near very, very rare, hard to do. Out of the samadhi experiences where if you're capable, then possibly past life memories can arise. The other way seems to be some sort of clinical hypnosis. Lots of people report under deep hypnosis that they have been regressed into previous lives. So that's a kind of another way of accessing it. The hypnosis is just a suggestion from the voice of another, which allows you, it's really, hypnosis is not, imposed on you by a hypnotist. You do the hypnosis. You're just, it's facilitated by another person. It helps you guide yourself into hypnosis. And hypnosis is just a manufactured word. It just made up in the 19th century. It's a state of focused awareness, strong self-suggestion. And so sometimes people seem to access previous life memories through that. So that's probably your best bet. Go to a hypnotherapist and try that. There's all kinds of books. There are board-certified psychiatrists and who practice hypnotic regression with patients and seems to help with undoing some kinds of trauma and so forth that may have occurred in previous lives. Yeah. Okay, let's go to one more question here.
Next question is from Dusty in Utah, United States. If Buddhism, as I've been told, doesn't believe in a God, what force oversees and enforces the process of cyclical rebirth?
Well, this is the same with the laws of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's the behavior of material objects in this universe is exquisitely precise and has at least descriptions which makes it sounds like it is lawful. But physics doesn't require a lawgiver behind the law. It just says that it's lawful. It doesn't have anybody overseeing it. So if you drop a ball, it falls to the earth through gravitational processes. And it doesn't require anybody overseeing that. So the same with the laws of that govern rebirth. It doesn't require a person behind it. It's just like the laws of physics. The laws of psychology are just laws. There's nobody calculating behind the scenes or keeping track of it. It keeps track of itself. That's all. Yeah, it's just eliminate the idea that somebody needs to be overlooking all of this stuff. It doesn't require that. It's just these are just the facts, how things work. Yeah. Okay, well, we will leave it for today, and we will see you in the future.